Tired of business advice from people who've never run a home service company? September 7th, 8th, and 9th, the Home Service Hoorah hits the white sand beaches of Pensacola Beach, Florida. No gurus, no theory, no fluff, just real-world experience. The list includes Jared Williams, Ellen Rohr, Tersh Blissett, Levi Torres, my amazing wife, Kristen, myself, and a few others. 3 days, real owners, real strategy, and real connection. Grab your tickets before they're sold out. HomeServiceHoorah.com. Again, that's HomeServiceHoorah.com. If you ever wonder why leads are slipping through the cracks, why customers ghost you after the estimate, or why your follow-up game feels like it's held together with duct tape, today's guest is going to flip the way you think about communication in your business. So stick around. You don't want to miss this episode.
Running a home service business is hard. So how is it that some people make it look so easy? Well, we'll tell you. This is the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. It's always good to hear the wins that successful contractors have. But have you ever thought that the best advice would be to hear about the speed bumps they encountered, the mistakes they've made along the way? We are going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want you to be successful and avoid the mistakes others have made. Let's get this party started. Welcome to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Now your host, Justin Deese.
Welcome back to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast, the show built for home service owners who are done playing small ball. So I got a quick question for everyone listening before we dive into today's conversation. When is the last time you actually timed how long it took your team to respond to a new lead? If you don't know the answer, you're going to want to hear this conversation today. Trust me. Today, I've got Ryan Fenn in the hot seat. Ryan is the founder of Chiirp, and Chiirp is honestly one of the most talked about communication and automation platforms in the home service space right now. If you've ever lost a lead because nobody followed up fast enough or watched a customer ghost you after the estimate, then this is the conversation you need to hear. So Ryan, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Justin. Happy to be here.
Ryan, before we jump in and go deep on Chiirp and all the cool stuff you guys are building, take me back a little bit to what you were doing before Chiirp even existed. Like, I don't know, what were you doing on a random Tuesday?
Well, when I was 8 on Tuesdays, I would know. On a random Tuesday before Chiirp, I was selling windshield repair in a gas station. That's what I would have been doing. So
okay, that's some hardcore sales.
Yeah. I started my first business. It was 2026, so this would have been 2010. I should say my first successful business. Started lots of little things. I've always loved entrepreneurship, but that was my first successful business. I started windshield repair, going door to door, and then I saw a girl doing it at a gas station. I was like, oh man, she's smarter than me. And she was letting the cars come to her while I was out going and finding the cars, And she figured out something that really stuck with me and has stuck with me and actually has become the biggest part of my business, which is bridging the gap between lead and sale, like opportunity, person and deal, right? And
yeah,
because we can all get traffic. We can get traffic on Facebook. We can get traffic on Google. We can get traffic at the gas station, right? But they're not necessarily there for that thing, right? They're not there. They're there to get gas. How do you bridge them to your product or service? How do you bridge somebody from Facebook to buy your product or service? So she did the windshield. She washed windshields. And that little act of service gave her the opportunity to look at the windshield, look to see if there was a crack in the windshield, and then start a conversation. It was that little tiny thing that made all the difference, and it opened up a huge world to me. And I started that first business, did really well with it. And then I built a course on how to start your own windshield repair business. So 2014, 2015, I started this course, how to start a windshield repair business. And I had the same problem, right? I had a product Nobody knew about this product or service. Nobody was searching for this product or service. Nobody was looking on Google, how do I start a windshield repair business, And so I had
They didn't know they needed it.
They didn't know they needed it, right? So
Yeah.
I had to take cold traffic, Facebook traffic or social media traffic, introduce them to an idea, and then bridge the gap and close them on buying my thing. We were able to do like $2 million in that course, and I did it all through text messaging. The way that I bridged that gap is I would put an ad up, and then once somebody expressed information, I would begin communicating them through text message. I would send videos and testimonials and different things to, and that is how I bridged that gap and made a bunch of money there. And that's really how Chiirp was born, was discovering that kind of bridging process for lead conversion. And then we started that in 2018. And it's been the same process again, finding how do I then find people, and we've discovered, all these different ways that it is very useful in home services. How do we, plug all the gaps, all the holes along the customer journey? And we've grown. We've done really well. We're pushing about $1 million a month now, in the last 3 years. And so it's become a really powerful tool for home service companies to convert more leads. So here we are now today. Gas stations to here.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's quite a journey. So when you started out by building Chiirp, did that happen through a conversation with a contractor? When you started Chiirp, was it even was the focus on contractors yet, or was it just more of a broad and you've eventually tapered down?
No. So it was probably, 10% of what it is today, the idea. So that the idea was Facebook leads, instant text message, and then follow up, right? That was the we'll call it the MVP, right? The minimum viable product. And when I built it, I had no intention of just going after home services. It was just anybody that would buy this thing. I was, and
that's the entrepreneur journey, right? You're like, anybody who will give me money.
Yeah. I was selling it to real estate agents. A food truck bought it. E-commerce guys were buying all these different things. And again, the bridge was, how do I convert people into buying this thing? And part of that process was discovering the message. And then everybody's heard, the niche, the riches are in the niches.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or is it the riches are in the niches? I don't know. I like riches.
I think it depends on where you're from.
But so I struggled for, I would say 3 years, 2018 to about 2021. So three years where we kind of struggled just being kind of a tool for everybody. And then some home service guys came along and they said, oh, this is really cool, but what if it integrated with, ServiceTitan, Housecall Pro, and this? And I said, well, what do you mean? Explain to me. They're like, well, we have, when an estimate goes out, what if we could follow up here? And what if when a lead comes in from Angi or from Thumbtack or from here? And we started to build all these integrations. And pretty soon, it was far more than just, hey, let's convert Facebook leads into jobs. It was, let's convert any lead from any source. Let's make sure that all of our estimates are being heavily handled at the right, like perfectly laser targeted follow-up. Let's make sure that we have multi-channel follow-up. Let's make sure that we have, wherever they could drop off when somebody books a job, or, what do we want to say when somebody, cancels a job, all these different ways, missed calls, abandoned calls, all this stuff. And so we started, going from that 10%, which was Facebook leads, to all these holes in the customer journey. And that's really where we discovered that the home services was who could benefit the most from us. And so we doubled down and said, okay, let's tighten up these integrations. So we have the deepest integrations into like ServiceTitan, Housecall Pro, Jobber, i360, FieldPulse, a bunch of different things. And then our messaging is solely around home service, how to convert more home service jobs. our campaign builder and all the things and all of our templates are all around home service. Our coaches are all trained around, home service. So it took a good 3 or 4 years to discover that part of this process. And then once we did, I was struggling in that, $20,000, $30,000 a month range. And then I was able to, during COVID, when I kind of discovered this, I took us from that to about $100,000 a month from my bedroom, just like selling it to home service guys from my bedroom. And then we started to really get momentum, and Tommy Mello got on board, and all these influencers started to get on board, and because they were using it in their own businesses, and we just started to scale from there. Now, like I said, we're pushing that $1 million a month mark. Hopefully the next month or two, we have our first 7-figure month. So it'd be sweet.
Nice. So let's back up just to here. I know you gave us a little bit of a glimpse into what Chiirp does, but for anybody listening who doesn't know, give us like the full rundown on how does Chiirp help business owners make more money?
So we look at your customer journey, right, from the beginning to the end, and everybody wants to tighten up their processes. They want to get things dialed. But I feel like a lot of times contractors, they don't put enough weight onto things that seem trivial, but are actually very important. They seem trivial, are actually the thing, right? They're actually super important. One of them being speed to leads. We talk about at the beginning of the journey. If we look at it like a plant in the ground or a tree, let's say we're growing a tree, the most delicate part of that journey for the tree is that first moment that it sprouts out of the ground, right? It can easily be smashed and destroyed. Same with a lead. We have a minute. A lead is not, a lot of contractors look at a lead as a contact information, a name, a phone number, maybe like a certain request, like I need a an HVAC inspection or whatever it is. That's how the lead is represented to us, but a lead is actually a moment in time. Okay, so if we have a timeline, a human's brain is moving through 1,000 different things throughout the day, and there's a moment in time where their brain becomes a lead for us because all the things line up. They need the service, or they're interested in the service, and they offer us their information and request information. Now, their brain is on that thing for that moment, and then that time passes, and their brain moves on to other things, or they resolve it in some other way, and now you just have a contact. You don't have a lead. The lead passed. The moment in time passed. You have their contact information, but it's no longer a lead. It's just a contact. And people will go, well, these leads suck. And you go, well, they're not even leads because you missed that opportunity. And so you missed the moment in time. And so when we talk about speed to lead, we find, and this has been clearly true across the board with us. It was proven with case studies done by Salesforce and all these big internet guys. A minute is the time frame that we have to get the best conversion rate with our leads. So if somebody's if somebody's on your website, if somebody is on Google LSA, if somebody is filling out a Facebook lead form, they call and you miss the call, any of these opportunities, you have a minute to contact before that timeline moves. And what happens is we see a stiff drop off right at that one minute mark, to where now that lead has become much less likely to convert by about half. So you're losing about half your opportunity. And then by minute 3 to 5, we're missing another half again. And then by 5 to 30, you're like chances of converting drop like almost to nothing. And so I'll give you an example. I had to get a DEXA scan. So that's where you go. For the listeners, a DEXA scan, you go into the doctor's office. It's a big, one of those, looks like a big scanner, goes over your body, and then it tells you that you're fat. That's what a DEXA scan is. And well, at least for so far.
You're like, what percentage? That can't be right.
Yeah. You're like, oh, these things aren't very accurate, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then you tell your trainer and he goes, no, they're pretty accurate, dude. You're like, oh, dang it. So I needed to get this done. And so I looked them up on Google, right? And it said, I looked up DEXA scan and they pop up, right? And there's the 5-star review. There's 2 on top. They both have 5-star reviews. They both look the exact same. So I call the first guy. He doesn't answer and he goes to voicemail. So I hang up and I call the next guy on the list. They answer. They get my name and phone number. They get my time and they book me for that afternoon. And then I hang up the phone. Once I hung up the phone, I get a text message from the other guy. Hey, did you want to book your DEXA? Sorry, I missed your call. Did you want to book your DEXA scan? It was too late. And literally, I looked at the timing on it, and it was 2 minutes from the time that I had called him to the time that I finished booking with the other one. And I get the text message, and it was like, oh, you missed in that 1 minute. You missed the opportunity. I would have booked them if he would have texted me 100%. I wasn't shopping. I was like, whoever answers, I'm going. And so that 1 minute cost him the job. He handed that job to a competitor. And had he texted me within 1 minute, before I had the opportunity to actually get to the call and actually book, he had a much better chance of catching me. So
or answered the phone.
Or if he'd answered the phone.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Answering the phone is the best option.
Yeah.
We're talking about in the times where you can't answer the phone or whatever it is. And that's one of, many different ways this makes sense, but that's the point, is that minute is very, very, very crucial. And a lot of contractors kind of look at that and just see it as not a big deal. And I'm looking at it as going, this is it. This is everything. If you are spending money on marketing and you are not contacting your leads quickly, you're leaving money on the table. And then of course we go into, beyond that, after the speed to lead. Once we solve for that, it's like, okay, what's next in the journey? Follow up. We've all heard, follow up.
So before we go to follow up, I'm going to make this point. I want to make sure everybody listening, all the listeners, caught what you said, which is 1 minute. And I think for anybody who caught that, their chest tightened up a little bit because they thought, well, there's no way to follow up in a minute, which there is a way to do it. And I can tell you, when we first started, which we don't own the business anymore, we sold it. When we first started it, we were waiting on things to ramp up. So we were using some of these lead aggregators that, most people talk bad about. We did very, very good with them, but we stayed locked in and focused and called them. A minute was our number. We didn't have any definition if that was the right number or not. It was just we were a minute, because we knew after that 5 other people would call them. And we did so well with those aggregates because of that. But then when we started to grow, that became, the focus shifted to where that wasn't the attention, because at that time we didn't have technology to be able to do this in a form, Chiirp wasn't there. So I just wanted to make that point of speed to lead. By definition, really, you just gave it a timeline. You gave it a definitive number of 1 minute. And for anybody that got nervous, don't get nervous. Don't get nervous.
Yeah, and think about it like this, right? We hear it a lot. They go, oh, I tried Angi. Those leads suck. Mm-hmm. We go, well, actually, you suck. And
you call them 3 days later, and they're like, no, my stuff's taken care of.
Yeah, and I don't want to paint them as this perfect thing, but
right.
People are successful with them for a reason, and they exist for a reason. It's not like they're just, and I get it. It's a hard game to play, but I could have made that same excuse at the gas station, right? Angie's going, hey, look, I'm providing the cars coming in. It's up to you to close the deal, to make it happen. The best I can do is get the cars to come into the gas station, right? That's the best we can do on our end. And so it's for me, the answer is always, let's look at your lead conversion process. Because if you have a system in place that is duplicatable, it's repeatable, and you can actually look at data and say, okay, why is our close rate X? And can we improve that? Where could we improve it? I'll give you an example on this again. At the gas stations, and this is a lesson I learned early on, when I would walk up to the windshields when I first started to wash the windshields of these people coming into the gas station, I would say, "Welcome to Mike's Chevron. Can I wash your windshield for you?" And they would say no. About 1 in 10 would say yes, just because people, it seemed generally they didn't want to be bothered, right? They're just, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. It wasn't until I changed just 4 words in my approach that I started to be successful. I would walk up and I would say, "Hi, welcome to Mike's Chevron. As a courtesy today, we're washing everybody's windshields." So I went from, "Can I wash your windshield?" to, "As a courtesy today, we're washing everybody's windshields." And there's lessons in the words and all that, but the point is not so much in the words themselves, but in the slight change, because the slight change took me from 1 in 10 saying yes to 9 in 10 saying yes. So if I saw 100 cars in a day, 90 would allow me to wash their windshield, or 10. Which one's better, right? And so if people aren't looking at their process and going, okay, how can we tweak these things? And this comes from just keeping bad data. If you're trying something different every single time, or you're saying something different every single time on the phone, you're not able to track this. And so you have to be very deliberate in what you're saying, your cadence, how you're saying it, what are you saying in your text messages when they go out, and are those words giving you a 1 in 10 opportunity or a 9 in 10 opportunity? And once you find that unlock, pretty soon you go, "Oh, holy crap, Angi sends good leads." And you go, "No, they're the same. They're the same leads." You just found your bridge, right? You found that bridge, and now you can actually convert.
That's pretty good. That's good gold. So you were starting to talk about follow-up. It's kind of the next step of the process is, so we've got speed to lead, which is anything which is less than a minute. Less than a minute, you got to be on it. And next we've got our follow-up.
Yeah, so follow-up, obviously, we've heard it 100 million times. Fortune's in the follow-up, right? But it, again, becomes cliche. It becomes like, oh, yeah, I do follow-up on leads. I call them. I'll call them a couple of times. And it's like, follow-up is actually a skill that should be mastered. It's not just something that you just go, "Oh, yeah, we follow up." It's like, no, there are steps and cadences and different things. And this becomes a very difficult process without automation. You're not going to follow up with 100% of your leads 15 times, which is like a number that is really important, right? Somewhere between 12 and 18 times that we follow up with leads to reach maximum conversion. Not everybody is going to convert on that first minute, obviously. We don't want to then take those leads and go, we paid money for that lead. And so it's like, I'm going to do whatever I can to get money from that lead. That doesn't cost me more than what it costs to, that I would get from the job. But I got to make sure that I'm maximizing. So I'm going to follow up consistently with those leads. We typically will follow up fairly aggressively for 7 to 14 days using various touch points. We use text messages being the best way to follow up with a lead, email, ringless voicemail, and then we obviously now this year and everything is a lot of AI involved as well. But we are following up consistently with these leads automatically. So, and the great part about this is sales guys don't care. Sales guys don't care if the lead is brand new. They care if it's hot. And so like if a text message goes out 7 days later and the person responds, "Oh yeah, no, I do need to get that done. Yes." That's a new hot lead. That's the same as the day one lead, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we remove that boring, monotonous part of follow-up from the sales guy's plate and just let them focus on the leads that are bubbling up to the top from the automation, they're much happier. The owner's happier because he's closing the leads that he's investing money in, and this whole kind of system is working in harmony. And we'll continue that follow-up indefinitely. So what I mean by that is if they do not respond, we're going to put them into a slow drip that's going to, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. And people will get a lead pop up 6 months later. Oh, it'll be like, "Hey, you reached out about a project 6 months ago. Wanted to see if that's something you still wanted to, explore." And it's not going to happen every time, but every now and then you get one that goes, oh yeah, you know what? I did that. Yeah. I want to do that. And guess what? That's like a brand new hot lead that you have to pay $200 for, whatever you're paying, for your marketing.
So I want to tell a story to cement the exact example you got, because this just happened to me yesterday.
Oh.
We have a barn, and it's a prefab barn, and we had a company come out and put it in, and it was great. And then a little bit later, about a year ago, we went back up there again because I wanted one a little bigger, because now that I'd had this in, there were some tweaks. I was like, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And so my wife and I started talking about getting another one built. And we've gone through a couple of different, contractors and a couple other companies, but I don't remember who I talked to a year ago when we originally talked about doing this thing. The guy randomly 2 days ago sends me a text and says, hey man, we were talking about a year ago about you doing this barn project. I just, don't want to bug you, but just wanted to see if this is something you wanted to dive into. My wife and I went yesterday and signed a contract to get this barn built. And honestly, I didn't remember the guy. I mean, once I met him, I was like, oh yeah, I remember he was a nice guy and whatever. But from a freaking text message that the guy just sent from a year ago, now all of a sudden he's got a whole big project that he's doing for us. So, man, it works.
Perfect example. And we see it just like time and time and time again. And what we like to do, like we've morphed into kind of this, like, we have really awesome software. We've built this really great tool. It works really well, but we've become more of a, like, almost like a partnership or coaching company where we say, hey, look, like we need really good plumbers. We need really good HVAC guys. We need you to be really good at that. We don't need you to be good at Facebook, or we don't need you to be good at TikTok. We don't need you to be good at software. And so we like to take that off the plate of the contractor and say, hey, we're gonna build all of your sequences. We're gonna build all your stuff. We're gonna work with you and help you through this process so that you can be a good HVAC guy and not think about, am I following up enough with my leads? Am I doing enough here? And am I doing enough there? And that's what we've really morphed into, is this kind of like partnership where we say, hey, and what we've done is this was kind of a cool thing we discovered in the last 6 months, but over the last 7 or 8 years, I've sent to 500 million text messages through Chiirp, through the system, all these different contractors, almost caught up to my daughter's texting, how much she texted. And I didn't really know how I was going to use that data until AI came along. And now I have AI reading through the 500 million text messages and coming back with insight. And it's coming back with all this really like incredible insight, like when is the best time to send messages? What's the best wording to say? What are the best things? And we're training AI to be able to build your campaigns so you're not, when I talk about what words you should use, it's finding those things and helping you craft these campaigns that are going to be higher converting than if you, and much faster testing and that kind of stuff. So it's been really cool to see what it's coming back with. It's like little insights. It's like, oh, Monday morning is actually a really good time to send an estimate follow-up text message. Didn't know that. Don't use certain words. There's like certain things and certain words and different things that like, and combinations of words. And it's helping people move faster through figuring out their bridge,
So when contractors are doing this on their own, what do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that they make let's say from the follow-up side?
When they're doing it on their own, a lot of times they overthink the messaging, and they kind of put their marketing hats on and go, okay, they'll send messages that sound very markety, like for the next 10 people that respond, you get $49 tune-up or whatever. It gives it kind of this like, it's like an ad. It's like they're sending an ad. The highest converting text messages are the ones that sound very conversational, as if you're texting your friend. The purpose of text messaging is that it has a personal vibration to it, right? And I don't mean the vibration on your phone, but the actual feeling you get when you get a text message. And think of it like this: if you're in a room with 1,000 people pointing at you, that's like our day, right? Every day we see ads all day long. Ads. 1,000 people are yelling at us all day long. Look at my stuff. Look at my stuff. Look at my stuff. Look at my stuff. Text messaging allows us to put our arm around the guy, pull him out of the room, and close the door with all those 1,000 people, and shut the door and shut it off for a second, and have his attention clearly for a few seconds. If you have that guy's attention for a few seconds, do you want to then go, for the next 25 guys, you know, it's like, no, you want to just say, hey, Justin, hey, it's Ryan. I'm going to be in your area tomorrow. Do you want to get a tune-up on your AC? Like just a real basic, just a friendly, thing. And it's like, oh, yeah, it's like refreshing to be like, oh, this is a human being. And so your messaging should just be, and people go, well, then that's inauthentic. We go, no, we're just trying to start conversations. We're not trying to fake anybody out, but we're trying to start a conversation. And once he responds, we're going to have a human take over. We can't have AI now take over. I'm like the AI. I'm like the anti-AI guy. I sell AI, but I have a gray area with AI right now, and
there's still the human connection, and I think that's one thing that people miss when it comes to AI is people still want human connection.
Yeah,
I don't think that's ever going to change.
I say, use it to spark conversations. Use it to turn you into a superhuman, not to eliminate you from the process.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So on the lead, so just to follow up on what you said too, I think probably consistency is another problem that most contractors have when they do this themselves. Again, like the example I gave is I got busy.
Yeah. And that goes back to, when you're following, especially if you're following up manually or anything like that, the process, you're unable to determine what's working and what's not. Because if you can't tell me your exact process, you can't then go, well, let's look at the day 2 text. Is that one doing well? The day 5 text, is that one doing well? Whatever, right? If you're just following up a bunch of different ways, you can't say, let's fix the words, because the words are different every time. And so you have to be consistent, extremely consistent, and then you have to actually track what's going on and then test against different things. You have to have the patience to test against, and this is where we have A/B testing and that kind of stuff, and that allows you to do those things like at the gas station. Had I not been paying attention to the words that I was saying, I wouldn't have been able to fix and make that flip.
Well, and I bet most contractors too don't follow up enough. I know most companies I talk to, I go, what's your follow-up process? They're like, well, we call them 3 times. If they don't answer, we don't call them back anymore. Yep. I say, well, it's not always important now. Again, go back to the barn story. It wasn't important a year ago. We were kind of in the kick in the tire phase. Now we're ready to go, and now they followed up. So I'm guessing probably most contractors that try to manually do this in-house probably don't follow up enough.
The numbers are clear that the 12 to 18 touch points is where you're going to reach maximum conversion, and nobody's doing 12 to 18 touch points. No way. And then, manually, if you get 20,
right.
You get 10, even if you got 10 leads a day, by day 10, you've got 100 leads now that you've got to call, and it's like, no way, and so, that's not going to happen. And so, 3 calls, it's great. It's a great start, but 12 to 18 touch points through, and calls are cool, but what if the guy's one of your leads that just is never going to answer the phone? You're never going to get that guy. Yeah.
I'm not answering the phone. If you're not saved in my phone, I'm not answering it.
I answer it.
But again, the dude texts me.
Dude texts you, and then, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you need to follow up in different ways, because there are some guys that won't respond to text messages, and you get them a voicemail or you get them an email. And so you have to hit them with all these different directions. And then, again, you go into the eternal drip that is, unless they opt out, I'm going to keep following up, right? And you're going to get those year-long leads to pop back up. So
let me ask you this. Obviously, there's a lot of different places to get leads. The lead cost to acquire a customer is not going down. It's not ever going to go down. But obviously, social media is becoming a huge part of where people are going to buy. Maybe not going to buy intentionally, but they're going to make buying decisions. Are you guys helping contractors in that space capitalize on any of the social media leads that might come in?
Yeah. So this goes back to, what I talked about with like Angi leads, right? Where you go, they can provide the traffic. Can we then convert that into a lead? That's the question. So Facebook this year actually will surpass Google for the first time in dollars spent on ads. 400 and something billion dollars will go to Facebook, and 400 and something less billion dollars will go to Google. And so people are seeing this shift because Google is, and especially in home services, is being dominated by people who can spend a lot more to get a job. Private equity, these groups come in and go, I'm willing to lose money for a long time before I'll, make money. And that's their model. And they're kind of predatory in that way. And so people have to learn to go, okay, where can I get more, more opportunity? And the problem is search, that's one type of lead. That's an intent-based lead. That's somebody that they're looking for your product or service. On Facebook, there's a billion people, but they're not looking for your product or service right now. This is the same as if we send somebody out door to door, right? If you go door to door, those people aren't looking, but guess what? Door to door guys can crush it. They can make a lot of money because they interrupt somebody's day and create demand. And if you can create demand, you can print your own check, right? It's like, this is it, right? And so what you have to do is you learn, okay, if there's a billion people over here pulling into the gas station, how do I bridge the gap? And we create, you create a great ad that says, just like, let's use HVAC as an example, right? There's great ads like, $49 tune-up, or some people are just going straight for the kill and say, hey, is your HVAC not working? Like, let's talk. And then you have like garage door guys, get a tune-up for $29. All these different like hooks, right? All these, call them hooks to get their attention. And then now we put them on this conversion bridge that then takes them from, I don't know who you are, to shut up and take my money, that process, right? And once you've nailed that, you have an unlimited amount of leads. You can go to Facebook and say, turn on traffic, send it to my funnel, send it to my, bridge, and I'll get deals. And so what we do, I don't run ads. I've been running ads on Facebook personally for years. I've generated probably 250,000 leads on Facebook forums. I actually, because I have Chiirp, the software, that's my main business. But we want people to take advantage of Facebook ads because it's kind of the way to get out from the tyranny of Google. And so we have a school. If you know it's school, SKOOL. It's a place where guys like me go and teach stuff. And so we have a school where we teach Facebook ads, how to build this bridge, how to build the whole process. So we do teach that process on how to get leads from Facebook that way. So
very cool. So listen, as we wrap up here, I want to say this. Ryan is going to be one of the sponsors at our home service hoorah that is coming up this year. So make sure you get your tickets. I just got a text message this morning that our VIP tickets are sold out. So only general admission is left. And we said this at the beginning, and they're going to sell out fast, and there's not very many left. And we're still several months out. Yeah. So come hang out with me and Ryan and Jared and my wife, Kristen, and all of our friends and learn some more about business. But Ryan, what is the best way for somebody to get in touch and find out a little bit more about Chiirp or do a demo?
So go to chiirp.com to get a demo, CHIIRP.com. There's 2 I's, so chiirp.com. Get a demo of Chiirp if you're in need of the lead conversion process. If you want help with that in that area, we want to show you where there's leaks in your business. We can help you implement these things. If you're in a space where you need more leads for your business, you want to learn how to do Facebook ads the way that we do them, you can go to my school, skool.com/Ryan Fenn. So either of those two will get in touch with me, and be sure to add me as a friend on Facebook. I post a lot of really hopefully really great stuff there. I get I try to be very open about how we do things and help people both on the lead generation side and the lead conversion side. So,
well, Ryan, we appreciate you coming and hanging out and spending some time with us and letting us learn a little bit more about Chiirp. And my man, we will see you very soon.
Very soon. Heck yeah. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Freedom Blueprint Podcast. Information is useless if not applied. So take what you've learned and go and implement it. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media at Freedom Blueprint for Home Services and hit the website at www.freedomblueprintpodcast.com. See you next time.